Alrighty, huge NBA news coming out last night that the Lakers said that the Mark Williams Dalton Connect trade was rescinded. I wish this trade had said the Anthony Davis Luka Doncic trade was rescinded, but shout out AD anyway. He played great yesterday. I'm going to talk about the Mavs in a video later on today, but this is big news. This is actually huge news in my opinion. This situation was, I feel like, a pretty things were looking pretty good, I thought, for the Lakers, and still kind of are, but not quite to the same extent now without a center. But this apparently Mark Williams failed his physical with multiple issues, and it apparently was not related to his back either, which is interesting. He's a guy who's had a lot of different injury issues in his first couple seasons in the league. He's definitely considered more of an injury-prone player, and clearly there's real reason for that. I mean, this is concerning. This is extremely concerning for Mark Williams, and it's also concerning just in general for the Hornets that they tried to offload a guy who you have to assume they knew was hurt. This feels like this trade's going to have an impact on both of these teams, and we'll start with the Lakers. You know what? Actually, we're going to start with the Hornets just real quickly, because while the Hornets aren't in the same position as the Lakers in terms of contention, this is bad for them in terms of their future, because it provides a example of this team just being hard to trust and hard to work with. I think this is going to give players trepidation with signing them with them in the future, and Charlotte already not a huge market, not a super popular destination by any means, but not only that, it is going to give teams pause on working with their front office, because this feels like Charlotte trying to pull a fast one on the Lakers and get assets for a player that they know is, in all honesty, kind of damaged goods. And look, I think Mark Williams is a talented player with a lot of potential still, but if there are some serious issues with his injury condition, some degenerative issues potentially with some of these injuries that he's had over his first few years, there could be this could be one of those trades that, like, if it had gone through, really backfired on the Lakers here in a couple of years, giving up a first round pick, giving up a promising rookie in Dalton Connect, giving up a pick swap as well. Like, this is a deal that was very much going to impact the Lakers in a lot of ways. And it also impacts the Lakers now, like this season. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, for the Hornets, it's going to have impacts long term in terms of teams trusting them and the teams working with them and all that type of stuff, and maybe some of the player trust and all that as well. But for the Lakers, number one, they don't have a center at a high level anymore. Like, their biggest are Jackson Hayes and Christian Coloco. And no disrespect to either of those guys. Those are not, in my opinion, high level playoff caliber rotation bigs. Certainly not, in my opinion, high level playoff caliber starting big men. And so look, I'm not bashing them as players. I think Jackson Hayes has actually been pretty good as of late. And I think playing with a guy like Luka Doncic will elevate Jackson Hayes as an overall player to probably the highest level we've ever seen him in his career. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this is not an elite center rotation whatsoever. For a team that is very elite in pretty much every other area, that center spot is not one of those places in which they are really, I think, well positioned to thrive and succeed long term. And so if I was a Lakers fan, I would be very concerned about that center position. It's something that can be addressed in the offseason, but the trade deadline is passed at this point, and it doesn't look to me, at least at this point, as if there's going to be a really good fit at the center position on the buyout market this season. And that could change. Things can always change, but post trade deadline, you're very limited in terms of the assets that you can, or the things that you can do in general, in all honesty. Like, there aren't really any buyout bigs that I love. Like, are you picking up Daniel Tice or Moses Brown or somebody like that? There just aren't very many names that are particularly enticing, particularly exciting, I feel like, as NBA caliber rotation big men at this point in their careers. And I think there's real concern there. I think there absolutely is reason for concern for the Lakers about having limitations at the big man spot. But also, you kind of wonder about the fit with the Dalton Connect now that he's coming back to the team. The Lakers are willing to give him up, and will that make things awkward in the locker room? I hope not. I don't really think so. He's a rookie, and he seems like a pretty good dude. I feel like, all things considered, he's probably going to be fine, but you wonder if that's going to impact him as a rotation piece in this team, because when you look at the Lakers, here's the honest truth, y'all. With this trade, outside of the center position, they're stacked. I mean, they really are. Luka, like, looking at the guard position, obviously you got Luka, you got Braun as a ball handler, you got Austin Reeves as a ball handler, and then off the bench, I mean, there really isn't elite level shot creation ability off the bench, but Gabe Vincent's been shooting over 40% from three for the last month. Shake Milton is, I think, a guy who can come in and contribute as well. And then obviously when you get to the wings and the other guard positions, I mean, Dalton Connect is a knockdown shooter. He's a guy who's going to have a role in this team if he's on the roster, plain and simple. And then on your wings, again, Braun, He's a wing guard. He's whatever you need him to be. He probably gonna play some small ball five, in all honesty. Same thing with a guy like Rui Hachimura. But Rui Hachimura, Rui Hachimura, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jared Vanderbilt. Like, you got a lot of versatility as your guards and wing positions, a lot of positional versatility as well. And outside of that center position, this is a really, really good team. And this might become a spot where all of a sudden you're like, oh, Maxi Kleber. I didn't expect him to be in the rotation, but now you do. He's going to be hurt until playoff time, but the hope is that he can come back for the playoffs now, because he's a guy who might actually be needed on this team. As much as he's had a rough year in Dallas, and really the last couple of years in Dallas haven't been great, I think with his skill set as a potential halfway stretch five who can guard 3 through 5 or so, and has some defensive versatility a little bit anyway, he's a guy who might actually be a real contributor. Christian Wood, who I didn't know if he was going to really have a role on this team, if he comes back healthy, that's another guy that could actually wind up with a real role on this team. He averaged like 20 points a game next to Luka a couple of years ago. And look, his time with the Mavs wasn't awesome, but he has the ability, I think, to come in and potentially be the best big on the roster. Like, I think that is a real possibility if he can come back and be the player that he once was, and maybe try to make a certain level of defensive impact as well. And look, this is going to hurt the defense of the Lakers a bit. It absolutely is. Mark Williams is a guy I think was going to come in and be an impact guy. But they're already winning without him. Austin Reeves had 45 yesterday against the Pacers. I mean, Luka's going to be a difference maker for this team. LeBron's playing the best basketball we've ever seen of any 40-year-old that's not even close. And they have a lot of other depth and rotational flexibility as well on this team. And I think the return of Jared Vanderbilt, the addition of Dorian Finney-Smith, as I've said in videos before discussing this Lakers team, makes them really, really solid defensively and very versatile defensively, really raises the floor of this team when those guys are on the court. The concern is going to always be that center spot, though. And look, they match up terribly against the Nuggets now, first and foremost. That's a bad matchup. And honestly, I think a lot of the other teams in the Western Conference as well are going to be pretty tough matches. For example, the Dallas Mavericks. Who's guarding Anthony Davis? That's a tough matchup. A team like the Oklahoma City Thunder that can throw Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren at you, that's going to be concerning. Like, I think there are going to be some real matchups and some real situations where this team is going to be in some issues come playoff time, and I think this lowers their championship viability, I will say. I thought they had a serious chance to win a championship. I still think they have a chance, but I'd be lying to say I think it's an extremely high chance. And you know what? We'll see what happens at the end of the day. I could absolutely wind up being wrong about that. But as of right now, this feels like a situation where unless some buyout big that I'm not expecting to become available becomes available at the sometime before the playoffs, unless that happens, I don't think realistically that the Lakers are going to be real contenders this season to at least win a title. But the future is still extremely bright, having added Luka Doncic with the emergence of Austin Reeves as like an all-star caliber player as of this season, I feel like. And then obviously LeBron playing at this level. I think he can keep it going for another couple of years if he wants to. Would assume he'll play at least next season. And I don't know. It's hard to know. I feel like he could play until 45 at this point. Will he? I highly doubt it. Is it possible with the way he's playing? I don't see why the answer would be no. And you know what? This is still an interesting team. It's still a fun team. It's still a team that I'm going to support and root for, obviously, with Luka Doncic. And we will see how far they can go without great bigs. And we'll see if a great big comes available at the buyout market, on the buyout market at some point here over the rest of the regular season. I will say, if I was a big who's uncomfortable or unhappy in the situation that I'm in currently, and I see an opportunity to go get some minutes and get an opportunity on the Lakers, this is a rare opportunity to get a chance to be a potential starter on a contending team. This late in the season in free agency. There might be somebody who's looking for that buyout opportunity and finds themselves an opportunity to start for the Lakers. Who knows? Things like that have happened before and will probably happen again. So I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon. And I appreciate y'all. Peace.